Hormozi Nation, a lot of people ask, how do you guys get so much stuff done? How do the companies move forward with such speed? And for those of you who don't know, my name is Alex Hormozi. We own acquisition.com. Our portfolio does about $85 million a year. I give you all this stuff because I just want you to not be broke, and a lot of people are, and so I don't want you to be one of them. All right. And so this video is a video that I released in a group a very long time ago, and it's one of the top ranked videos in that group out of 300 plus videos. And it was how we tactically execute on speed. So speed is king is one of the core tenets of our companies. Actually turning that concept of speed into something that everyone can execute on is one of the key things that moves you forward towards your goals faster. All right. And it's not what a lot of people think. It's not about being impatient. It's not about trying to get 100 things done, but it's about knowing how to get the things done that matter, A, and then B, how do we get these short tasks done in a way that actually moves teams forward rather than individuals. All right. So I think you'll enjoy the video. It was ranked one of the top ones, and I'll see you on the other side. Hormozi Nation, love you. And so I think one of the things that's been a sad realization for me as an entrepreneur is that things just take time, right? There's an old adage of the master swordsman. So it's a Japanese proverb. And so young, motivated guy goes to the master samurai and he says, I want to become a master samurai. How long will it take me? And the master samurai says, it will take 10 years. And so then the guy responds back and says, well, what if I work extra hard? I work every day. I'm super focused, and I don't do anything to distract me. And he says, it'll take 20 years. And he's like, what? How is that even possible? And he said, well, it will take so long because you are in a rush. And you can only have one eye on today if your other eye is on the future. And so fundamentally, what I find very interesting about this is that Jensen Huang, who's not Japanese, just to be clear, just Asian, calm down, is that Jensen Huang, who's the CEO of NVIDIA, had a really cool clip about this the other day. And so one of the things that he does is he doesn't wear a watch. And part of the reason that he doesn't wear a watch is because he believes that now is the only time that actually matters. He also takes the perspective that if a meeting goes long, it goes long if it's more important than other meetings. And so he allows that to occur. The other piece that at a company as big as NVIDIA, that he has executed has been that they don't have long-term planning. And I find this interesting. It's something that I tend to jive a little bit more with, more so because the resources and assets that you have available to you 12 months from now will completely change your prioritization or your planning for the next 12 months. And so you basically just want to see far enough ahead that you have the existing things you have. And then as soon as variables change, everything will change. And so there's a lot of mental masturbation that I also see, especially amongst entrepreneurs who are newer here, around this idea that they want to solve every variable. They want to kind of figure everything out without ever having started. And the reality is that you're basically just making it all up, and it's entirely just entertaining yourself, but doesn't actually accomplish anything, because it gives you the fallacy or the illusion that you're collecting data by doing your quote research. But the best source of data is from taking action in reality. And so there's a very limited amount of planning, especially in the beginning, that you need. Now, I will make this point, which is that the further along you get, the more you have to be strategic with the bets you have, because it takes more to make a dent in growth. Meaning, if you're doing 100 million a year, if you want to make a 20% gain next year or a 50% gain, it's like, I've got to make a big bet to get to 50, right? To add another 50 million or whatever it is to the business. Whereas if you're starting out, you basically need very high activity and basically almost no planning, right? You just need to do something. And so the sub point underneath of this is that I like this analogy when it comes to turkey, and I tweeted about it the other day, and it's timely given the fact that Thanksgiving is coming up, which is that many of you, and I see the posts, right, make these comments around basically my turkey isn't done yet. It's been in the oven for 3 minutes. And so should I really use an oven? Should I consider trying to slice it up and put it into a toaster? And so the idea is that often, especially when you're starting, you think constantly about switching strategies. And the reality of it is that typically there's significantly more volume and time that must be applied basically to accumulate volume, given how little leverage you have, in order to create sales that you want. And so I think something that a lot of people really miss is that volatility is typically a function of small volume. All right. So I'll say this again. When you have volatility in a system, it appears as though it's inconsistent. But more often than not, it's because there's not sufficient volume for you to be able to recognize a pattern. And so, for example, if I reach out to, call it 10 people a day, then every 2 weeks I might get a sale. And I'd be like, yeah, my sales are really inconsistent. But they might not be inconsistent at all. It's just that it takes you 2 weeks to get the appreciable amount of volume in order to get a sale. And so what appears to be volatile to you, you got two sales. So in your mind, you go 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Like it appears volatile, but it's actually fairly consistent. And so for most of you, you need to add significantly more volume to the activity that you're doing, significantly less planning, and more extension of time horizons. Because most of the time, the goals that you guys have are extremely achievable on a significantly longer time horizon. And so I'll tell you a different little anecdote. So I posted recently on Twitter about a little picture of me learning how to code a landing page. This is back in the day when, there was this brand new thing called Facebook ads, and I paid $3,000 of money I didn't have to go attend this workshop to learn how to run Facebook ads. So that's Ben Ballinger. There's Ben, who ended up getting out of fitness. But that's me, and I didn't have a gym at the time. And I attended this thing for gym owners, right? And I think that's kind of interesting. This was for gym owners, and I didn't have a gym. And I want to make this point before I dive into the second half of this, which is some of you, and you can unshare, some of you have the feeling like you don't belong or like you're too far behind, right? Like these people are talking about things like VSLs, CPLs, conversion rate optimization, split testing, free trial conversion, second conversion, EPCs, right? All of these terms and acronyms that get thrown around, and you think maybe this isn't for me. But whenever you enter a new endeavor, there's always going to be new language. And so whenever you have a new skill, you must assume that there's a dictionary that kind of goes along with it. And so marketing and business is no different than that. And so I remember going there and feeling like I didn't really belong because every other person there was a business owner. But here's the thing, is that the advantage that I had was I got to learn from all these other guys, and I learned from all their mistakes. They're like, oh yeah, definitely don't go in those types of neighborhoods. Oh yeah, I would have changed my square footage layout like this. Oh yeah, you don't need to buy that. It's a waste of money. You're not going to use it. That equipment looks sexy, but people hate it or people get injured on that, right? And so I learned all this stuff. I got to prevent myself from making mistakes. And so right now, for some of you, you think the fact that you're, quote, behind makes it feel like it's a disadvantage. But in a lot of ways, and I'll just be real, I make more money than every single person who's in that room, who was in that room when I learned Facebook ads 13 years ago. But I was behind. And so I just want you to, the reason I'm bringing all this stuff in terms of Rush's imaginary is that I have so many times in my life and people I've seen continued to feel like a failure based on an arbitrary timeline that I decided for myself based on nothing. I just drew a line in the sand and said, I'm not rich yet, or I'm not this rich yet, and therefore I'm a failure, right? And I think that a lot of you guys are doing that. And so I would encourage you, especially all the news that I just saw in the chat earlier, I would encourage you to extend the horizon. And sure, I have a monetary incentive for your, $99 conversion. I promise you it will make no difference in my life. My point here is that it will make probably a significant difference in yours if you just give it a shot, give it a chance to breathe, because many of you just need to be immersed in this environment so that you can get caught up, right? You have to, like, I'm a big fan of hyper immersion. Like I flew out, I went to this thing for 2 days with all these business owners, and I just was like, I have no idea what's going on. So much so that the guy who was running the event saw how like unbelievably disoriented I was, and pulled me aside during lunch and said, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm just trying to figure it all out. And he said, do you want to know the secret to sales? And I'd never sold anyone before. And he said, you just need to make an offer so good people feel stupid saying no. And so that is where that story came from. That picture is actually from the exact workshop that I attended when I was brand new to business, didn't have a gym. And so many of you are preventing yourselves from actually accomplishing what you want only because of your time horizon, only because of the timeline. And I think Evelyn told this story that got a ton of shares inside of the community yesterday about how her father had a software business, right? And after a year and a half or whatever it was, it finally was breaking even, right? But it had lost money basically this entire time. And then at the end, he basically gave up the business and then got a stable job. And knowing what she knows now, she was like, oh my God, we were 6 inches away from gold. We were so close to just turning the corner. But he decided to give up on this opportunity. And obviously it set the stage for Evelyn to be like, I'm never going to do that for me. And I'm going to keep going. And net, I think it's been a big win for them as a family. And I think all of us want to learn. And I think as parents, I would imagine that you would probably want your children to do even better than you and learn from the mistakes you had. And that's how humans get better. And I think to the same degree, and in no way do I have a parental relationship, but more so to say, we try and pass on to the best of our ability the things that we've learned from the school communities that have done well and from the other businesses that are ahead of you. Just like I showed up at that room, not being a business owner, trying to learn from those who were. And so this is me shouting at you, despite the fact that my nervous system's shot right now, shouting at you to understand that you can absolutely accomplish your goals. I really mean that. Like you can get to $5,000 a month. You can get to $10,000 a month. You can get to $20,000 a month for those of you who are starting out. It's very doable, just not this month. Just not this month. Now, of course, there are people who are outliers, but I will make this note, which is that the people who are outliers often bring a stack of skills to the party. And so they're not true zeros, right? Like if somebody, for example, has a business outside of school, like let's say you own a lawn care business, and then you join and you start a school community, you will immediately be able to, in your first month, be successful with it because you understand the other skills associated with the business, which is like you have to learn how to promote, you have to learn how to sell, you understand the delivery mechanism, which obviously school facilitates. And so these are all things that are skills that you're going to have to learn. And so many of you have this desire to learn everything at once. But the thing is that if you actually knew that this was going to work out, like let's say that it was like you knew you could tell the future and you knew everything that was going to happen between now and when you make your first $10,000. Guess how lame that would be? If you could get a guarantee, you wouldn't actually want it. And it's the reason the gods have always envied the mortals, was because of the ephemerality of living, is the chance. It's the shot, right? It's the gamble. And so many of you are not comfortable with risk because you're new to it. But this is the game. And what makes risk less risky is skills. And so it's not very risky for me to start a business because I have the skills. And so despite the fact that businesses in general over 10 years have a 95% failure rate, mine don't. And so for me to take these risks, you really just get only the upside, but not the downside. And so skills are the greatest hedge against risk. And the way that you acquire skills is that you stick with it. And so big picture, you're going to have to realize that you're going to have to figure out how to promote. And we break down everything we possibly can here, right? We like, you're going to have to do outbound, or you're going to have to make content, or you're going to have to partner with somebody who has an audience, which you would get in contact with them via outbound. You have to run ads, like any of those things you can choose from. And if you were an avatar in a video game, you can do any of those, but you got to pick and you got to commit. And that's the thing, is people do DMs for 7 days and think, oh, this doesn't work, right? When in reality, it's again, volatility typically appears when there's insufficient volume. And so many of you think, and this is something that you don't understand when you're starting out. And actually, I would make the argument that it actually continues. Your idea of work, my personal idea of work, has consistently shifted over time. And so when I see Elon Musk, I know he outworks me. And he makes more money than me already. And he's older. How embarrassing for me, right? And I probably outwork everyone here. And I feel weird saying that, but like I'm pretty confident because I know what my schedule is, and I know what I used to think a lot of work was, and then I crushed everyone at that level, and then I got to a new level, and then I was like, oh, this is now what a lot of work is, and then I ended up beating that pool of people, and so the game keeps going, the bar gets higher, and I wish I could demonstrate with it. Like I had this guy who sent this email the other day, who was at the 10 person thing. And he said, I've heard of the work ethic, but I'd never seen it. And he's like, and seeing him go for 10 straight hours without even leaving the room was just like crazy. And the thing is that like I had spent that entire morning before that too, and the night before, all prepping for this. And so the idea is that most of you think that what you're doing is a lot of work, but you're spending a lot of time in front of the computer getting very little done. And it's because you have some sort of either fear around rejection, or you have some judgment that you cast upon yourself based on other people's timelines that you make up. And that's the thing. So let's say someone judges you for starting this business or something like that, right? Okay, they're ignorant because they don't have a business. And so they think, oh, you start a business and then it'll immediately work. And so then they think, oh, you must be doing something wrong, right? It would be like somebody saying like, hey, Alex, 4 years ago, you're making content. It's clearly not working because it's been, you only have a few thousand, subscribers or whatever it is. But it's just like pulling out the turkey at 10 minutes in. You're not doing the wrong stuff. You're doing it on the wrong timeline. You just got to let the turkey cook. You got to let the seeds or the roots go down, right? You got to be the samurai who realizes that the rush is the thing that kills you. And so the reason I think a lot of entrepreneurial ADD exists is simply because of a lack of patience. And if you're like, well, what is patience? For those of you who are new and don't know this, patience is figuring out what to do in the meantime. That's it. And the good news is, if you're here, you already know what to do in the meantime, which means that to be patient, you just continue to take action. And like the world belongs to those who can keep doing without seeing the result of their doing. Fundamentally, this is the foundation of delayed gratification. And the thing is, guys, is it doesn't take a long time. It just takes longer than you expect. And that's really all I'm trying to do here, is if I can just shift your expectations. And this is why I push this so hard. It's like, because if I can shift someone's expectations that like they'll consistently do something for a year, my God, it's crazy. And also what's funny is that the amount of times I get tagged on Instagram of people being like day 13 of Rule of 100, day 22 of Rule of 100. The guys who are at day 60 are like at millions of views and stuff. It's crazy. But no one does it. Because the thing is that it's so simple to do. It's just only even simpler to not do it. Because it's never been easier to be successful, but it's also never been easier to be distracted. And so I think the entrepreneurial makeup is somebody who wants to take that risk, wants to take that bet, is willing to roll the dice. But that personality type tends to want the immediate payout. And so it's this very weird internal struggle that you have to go through, which is like you need to really lean into that entrepreneurship where you're like, I'm willing to take the bet. But then as soon as you do it, just be like, I'm never going to do that again. I have to stick with this for a long time, right? So it's like the thing that got you here, right, is actually the thing that will prevent you from moving to the next level. And so I want you to write this down. Rush is imaginary, and put it as a sticker on your computer, because every time, like, just use it as a mental cue whenever you think to yourself, like, why isn't this happening faster? Like, maybe I should change strategies. Maybe I should take the turkey out and see if I can put it in the toaster. Maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should just let the turkey cook. And just keep going, keep basting it, keep basting it, keep basting it, right? And then eventually at the end, people are going to see your beautiful turkey and you're going to be like, they're going to be like, oh my God, how is that turkey so great? You're like, actually, I let it sit overnight. And then I slow cooked it for hours and I kept basting the thing over. And the whole thing ended up taking me a weekend to cook. But how amazing is that? But the inexperienced chef will look at the turkey at 10 minutes in and say, what's taking so long? Do you even know what you're doing? The thing is, though, and this is what I'm trying to transfer to you, is that the master chef would look at them and laugh them out of the kitchen. Be like, you've clearly never cooked a turkey before. But the thing is that everybody around you has never cooked a turkey before. And so this is why I'm trying to be that master chef, a little bit self-aggrandizing here. But like, I would like to just call from ahead on the race being like, you're fine. Just let it cook. And so you can't listen to people who aren't where you want to be because they can't give you directions on how to get there. All right. So, anyways, that's my little Mosey sermon for the day. Rush is imaginary. I think many of you would get to your goal significantly faster if you extended the time horizon. And I'll hit this one last point. The reason it takes people so long is because they have to start over so many times. That's what takes so long. The reason that it takes longer when you're in a rush is because you don't stick with it. That's why it takes longer. So someone would be like, how could, like the young samurai, like, how could it take longer if I'm in a rush? Because the master knew that he wouldn't stick with it based on that thinking process. Because having one eye on the future means he has one fewer eyes on the present, which means he can't fully dedicate himself. Rather than being present when he's practicing the sword, when he's practicing making content, when he's practicing his emails, when he's practicing his phone sales, rather than being 100% present, he's got one eye on the future. He's always judging and appraising himself in real time. Now, that's very different than saying, where can I get better? Very different than saying, why hasn't it happened yet? I want to really delineate this because I think it's important. Asking yourself, how can I get better, is very different than why hasn't it happened yet? One of them is based on inputs. The other is based on outputs. You have to erase the output-based questions for yourself. And if you can erase the output-based questions for yourself, it is inevitable that you will succeed. And I really mean that. I can't tell you when, but I can tell you that. And so there's this clip that my team put out from like years ago or whatever, which is, I've gotten this question a couple of times on podcasts, which they're like, on one hand, they'll say something like, did you ever imagine that you'd get to this level, when you were starting out? And I'm like, fuck yeah, I thought about it. I was like, you think this happened on accident? Like, I've been thinking about this for decades. Yes, I thought about it, right? But of course, they don't want that answer. They want to be like, yeah, it's such a surprise to me. This just all magically appeared, right? It's ridiculous. And on the equal opposite of that is sometimes they'll just ask the question like, did you always know you were going to be successful, right? And I think, and the honest truth of this, right? Like, did you ever think it could happen? Of course I did. Did I always know it was going to happen? Of course I didn't. I didn't know it was going to happen. I thought about it all day, every day. But I thought at that time, what things are under my control? And every time I kept deriving down the actions, it just came down to don't stop. And so the one thing that I committed to is like, I just knew I wasn't going to stop. I didn't know if I was going to get there, but I knew I would keep going. And so my ask for you is that you just keep going. That's it. Just keep going. And when you do that, the thing is that if you're directionally correct, if you're just walking in the right direction, walking clarifies the path as you move. And so a lot of entrepreneurship is like walking up a mountain in mist, right? All you can see is the bottom of the mountain, and you can see a couple steps ahead. And then for whatever reason, as you take a couple of steps, another couple of steps become clear. And sometimes through the mist, you get to a mountaintop, and then you're like, oh, shoot. It's actually a sub peak. I got to go down a couple steps and then go back up because you got better perspective from that little mini peak. And this is the game, because at the end of the day, you're going to die and no one is going to care at all. And everybody whose opinion that you listen to is also going to be dead. All of them. And so the fact that you don't want to live the life that you have now because of what some people who are going to be dead in 1,000 years think about you today, who don't have what you want and don't live the life that you want to live, is a complete and utter waste, in my opinion. This is a Cybertruck. This is 100 grand. And somebody watching this video right now is going to win one of those two in the next 30 days. In fact, last month, Keytron won. Which one did you win? Cybertruck. Was it worth it? Yeah, sure. And he did it by building a community that helped people fix their credits and got to $132,000 in his first try. And listen, that was amazing for Keytron, but let me tell you about the other top 10 people that were here with me. And so here they are on the leaderboard, and here they are in real person. And so Adnan got to 27,000, Benit 40,000, Ryan got to 44. Ted got to 48. Max, 40. Anthony, 101. Javon, Salah, Kevin, 123. Meg, 48. Devin, 37. And so listen, I could keep talking about this, but you might be wondering, what's Skool? How does it work? Well, let me explain. So Skool's an online platform for building a group online about whatever you want. It's easy, and sure, everyone says that, but how easy? Well, right now, 1 out of 2 people who start a community online make money. Yes, 54.1%. And the reason that we have such a high success rate is because we spent hundreds of hours studying thousands of successful groups to figure out exactly what they did to make money. And then we broke it down into a step-by-step recipe for making money. Doesn't that smell good? And so we boiled it into do this X times per day and do this Y times per week. And it works. It works so well that right now the average paid community makes $1,360 per month in recurring revenue, which is pretty sweet. So no, it won't make you into a billionaire, but it will help you get started. And you can keep scaling all the way up like the 10 people that I was just showing you earlier. And on top of that, we built everything that you need to run a paid group on Skool already. So no, you won't need to start a Stripe account. No, you won't need to build a website. No, you won't need to have any inventory. And you won't have to hire anyone new. No thanks, guys. We're good. Skool works out of the box. Ta-da! It's that easy. We built it that works the same way as social media, so you don't need to learn anything new. All right, there's not even a single piece of technology that you figure out. You just log in and you can collect money in minutes, literally. And if you're just starting out, here's you. You're literally who we built Skool for. So remember those crazy people that I showed you over there? Say hello. Hey. They did this last month, and if they can do it, so can you. This is built for people who are brand new to business or brand new to online business. And if you're wondering, well, do I need to have an audience? No, half of those guys didn't have an organic audience. And these guys are the winners. So no, we'll show you where and how people are getting their first customers absolutely free. Follow me. Listen, if you don't believe me, think about it like this. If we get 1 out of 2 paid communities to make money, most people don't have organic audiences. So we had to figure it out or no one would stay on Skool, but we have. And that's why we have tens of thousands of groups on Skool right now. And as much as I'd like to think people love me, people stay because they make money. And we'll show you exactly how they did it. And also, just to make sure you don't get stuck on any step, I answer questions every single week. I hop on calls. And so if you want to hop on there live, we usually have 200 or 300 people who hop on those calls. So it's not huge. And so now's the best time to get started. So if that sounds at all interesting, the best part is you can start a community of your own absolutely free. Just click the yellow button below this video, enter your details to start your absolutely free trial. Worst case, start for free, you decide to quit, and then you can take all the training that other people charge thousands of dollars for with you for free. Again, that's the worst case. Best case, you take a zero risk move and build an online business that could change your life forever. And to be clear, I'm not asking you to decide yes or no today. I'm asking you to make an informed decision. That's it. And the only way you can do that is on the inside, not on the outside. So get inside and see if everything that we say is true and valuable to you. Then if it is, in 2 weeks is when you can actually decide for real. And if you get in and decide it's not for you, no sweat. But you can't truly make an informed decision right now for the same reason you don't buy a house without looking inside of it first, or test drive a car before buying it. So this is a guaranteed risk-free test drive. And listen, whether it's 13 minutes or 13 days from now, if you decide that it's not for you for any reason whatsoever, all you have to do is go to your profile and click cancel. That's it, 1 click. And the only reason you can make an offer that strong is because you're confident that what you have is the real deal. And I'm fairly confident that when you sign up by hitting the button below, you're getting exactly what you need to start your online business. So you might as well give it a shot. The only other guarantee is that if you don't take this shot, you'll stay right where you are right now. But if you take action, you could be the next one coming out to Vegas celebrating how quickly you built an online business with consistent monthly recurring revenue and driving away in a Cybertruck or with 100 grand in cash in your pocket. Pretty neat. So click the button below, join us in the Skool Games. I take calls every Monday, hop on, and be sure to let me know you're new. I'll see you on the other side.